Greetings from Raton. I look through these history of videos to see where all I have been when I've made videos. It's hilarious. Well, I wanted to get this second video out in a series. The first part being how to get home, get grounded, get centered with box breathing. And this one is the second one. And we're going to look at something a little differently from the first one. And the, the subject is, if you're looking at the problem and what's wrong and who's to blame, that's never the lesson. We're in a school, Earth School, and the problem is never the lesson. The problem comes to be solved. So the problem, when you're looking at what's wrong, you're certainly pointing, that problem is pointing a finger to the lesson, but you have to listen to things in a little different way in order to get there, which I know you know this already, but it made sense in some sort of fundamental way to know how to get home and how to deal with these issues that come up for us, because there are a lot of issues coming up for us right now. Okay, so what I have figured in my experience, life is usually asking me in those awkward moments, who do you think you are? What are you going to do right here? Those are some big questions. So y'all know my story. I've learned this on a personal level of being the invisible one. And I know it's hard to believe that during the time period I'm talking about being the invisible one, I had bright red hair, bombastic clothes, and a loud mouth. But people could see me, but they couldn't really see me. One example of that is when I was working for my parents as they were going through illness there for a long period of time. I was running their business for them, and we'd sit down at that front table inside the door and drink coffee, and we were just laughing it up and having a good time. And a woman finally came up to me and said, "Oh my God, do you remember the daughter? She had that space in the back, and she had really great stuff. Do you remember her?" And I said, "I am the daughter." Right? She didn't know. Or, my hair wasn't even gray yet. Or when I was married and the housewife, being at home, taking care of things, it's a thankless job. But nobody seemed to notice where things were coming from. Dinner, it was a mystery no one even cared if they solved. Totally invisible. I was the invisible wife, the invisible daughter, invisible mother, and I was beginning to get a complex. So every time somebody didn't notice me and what I was doing and the substance of who I am, I would get a little hurt. What's the matter? So that was a problem. And it continually happened, this problem. Just to prove my point, it was showing up all over the darn place. So again, meditation came to help me, and I know I've talked about this practice before. I don't know if you've actually tried it. That's between you and you. But I learned about that meditation practice of tea with demons. And you've heard the story. I'll just say it again. I sat down. The whole thing is you sit in a meditative space. But in my mind, I created a table with a tablecloth. In my case, it was the old 1920s twisted iron ice cream tables. So I had a little table with a tablecloth and a couple of chairs, one for me, one for the demon. It's all in my mind. I'm just sitting on my cushion. But I had the doilies, the saucers, the cups, the teapot, all of it ready. And I waited and waited, and I had been reading about it, and it said if the demon comes and is ugly, and it will be, you just stay calm and serve the tea. So I just sat. Almost forgot I was waiting. And here comes something over on the right side from me. And it was gusty and abrasive. And I said, well, there's the demon. And now Buddhists use the words demons. That's just your troubles. Okay? It's not like a Satan or something. And I remember, keep yourself together. Poured the tea for the demon. Poured the tea for myself. set the teapot down, and the demon just whisks right in front of me and says, "You don't care about yourself." I thought, well, how rude. And I looked to the other side thinking, is that true? And when I looked back, the demon was gone. So the question, is this true, was the real question. Not the question, why is this happening to me? I could have kept myself in a victim box forever with that question, because when you ask that question, you're always sure to find somebody to blame, and it's not you. So I was thinking, is that true? And as I thought through it, my gut hunch, which kind of hurt because it was me, I wasn't really showing up. I would show up and help you. I would show up. I was a perfect sidekick. If you needed some help, I was there, showing up, taking care of things like my parents' business or the family. But who I was and what I had to offer actually never showed up. And I had resisted in times where I knew this would be a good place for me to show up right here. And nobody cares anyway. I was too busy focusing on the problem. So yeah, it takes courage to come after the chameleon years, I called them, where I was whatever you needed me to be. If you needed to be purple, I'd be purple. Whatever. So now life and I were on the same page. Life asks, who are you and what are you going to do right here? I listen a little differently. So the real lesson was I wasn't noticing me. I wasn't listening to me. I would set up an imaginary table and listen to a freaking demon, but not me. Which is ridiculous. But that is true. And so I knew that was my lesson because it stung a little bit. It stung a little because I was sure that everybody else was not seeing me. I went through years going through this. It's fantastic. But it took moving into a more subtle realm where I could really give some space to answering the question, what is going on here? And from then on, every time I had the opportunity to show up, I had a choice, do it or not. And sometimes it was best for me just to choose not to. And sometimes I couldn't hold back. This was it, where I belonged. But I no longer could hold other people responsible for people not seeing the substance of who I am. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm sure you do. So by all appearances, I could be seen. And appearances are kind of what we are jimmying with right now in the world. It's an election year, lots of shit going on, and lots of just nothing trying to be the shit going on. Made up stuff. Lots of made up stuff. But we're getting to a point in our level of maturity where we're dealing with moving beyond appearances, being able to see beyond the appearance. Despite all appearances to the contrary, we're perfect, whole, and complete, just as we are right now. So the concrete fools us and distracts us, actually. Appearances, this black and white thinking, is really ridiculous at this point. You can't tell what gender anybody is. You can't tell what color anybody is. Used to, that's how you profiled everybody. There's stereotypes anyway that we had used to compartmentalize and separate and divide. Everything is changing. So we are being asked to develop new skills. We're being called on to develop new skills beyond the appearance, judging by appearances. And by judging, I just mean worth it or not. Even if I want to show up or not. Eventually I'll always show up, It's not worth it for me to show up to them, whatever. And this I would call a maturing. In the last video, I talked about there was a time in our wee little lives when we became aware of when we needed to go potty, before we needed to go potty. So pottying is always the thing that gets all the applause. But the truth is, our conscious awareness shifted in such a way that we didn't fall out of the bed, we didn't wet our hands, tell, something shifted. And now we are being asked to rise above even that level of maturity. And we're doing it. We're doing it. And from that rise and that different way of using our senses in a more subtle way, we have that higher lower self. We have in the chakras, we have a higher or a low way of using the chakras. If they're out of balance, we're using them not in their highest way. So if you're focusing on details and looking at the appearances, hold up a minute. And you don't even, why is this happening for me, is almost not even the question anymore. What's actually going on? But those times when my feelings got hurt because people didn't see me, and again, what is wrong with these people? Those had created a trigger for me. You hear that word a lot. That was a trigger for me. And the trigger was merely pointing out, here it is again. How many times you're going to hurt before you actually try and figure out what the heck is going on. So the triggers are very powerful. Now I want to eventually get into how to translate pain that's established there for you or us and into more of a peaceful flow and rationale. But for this one, you can even go through your own little triggering pity parties. We all have them. I still have them. I just don't have them on that so much anymore. But they're learning. They're places of learning and maturing. So think about some ways that you are triggered by any little thing in your life, a coworker, family, other people are just treating you a certain way, or you're constantly sick in the same way. I'm getting over the flu myself. But so here's what I ask you to do this time. We had the box breathing last time. This time, reflect, sit with circumstances, and gather your opinions about a certain circumstance that keeps happening for you. And then write down your observations. Write them down. Read them over. Life is asking, who do you think you are? How are you going to handle this moment? And then ask yourself, why is this happening for me? If you want to do the tea with demons, I highly recommend it because it's so ridiculously fun way to figure it out. But sometimes I've asked, what are you trying to tell me here? What am I missing? Let's think. And it's not exactly thinking that gets you there is the reason it's fun to put the play element in, because it's a realization that occurs in your experience. So whatever comes up for you, listen. And if nothing comes up, try it again another time. Keep trying. But write down your findings. And if it doesn't feel complete, again, you'll know it feels complete. You'll just know. You will know it, and then you know what happens. The funny thing is that stuff doesn't bother you anymore. You learned. Not that it's not going to happen again, but it's almost funny. Like, you almost got me that time. That kind of thing. So we're developing skills as we are reculturing ourselves, maturing, and looking at how we see. We're learning how to wear panties. We are moving out of the house and learning how to pay bills, or whatever it is. But this level of maturing is not about any milestone maybe that anybody can see. This is much more subtle and much more rewarding at this point, So Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Boy, do we need that to happen. We need the things that we're looking at to change. So you're doing this for you. You're doing it for all of us. We do it alone together. But ain't nobody going to get nowhere if nobody's starting. So just practice it. Problems come to be solved. And, you know, it seems a problem because it's not how we think it should be or what is good for us. And maybe we need to also look at how we think about things. Maybe it's time to let go of things, thinking things need to be that way. You know what I mean? That's why I love put that in the journal of you, right? So remember, the step one is just to remember how to get stable, grounded. This is home. You're centered. You're just breathing. And this step, when you do get a little flustered by something, you can deal with it. And I do want to hear if you're dealing with it. Okay? I know these videos are sporadic. And I'm trying to get a little bit better at it, getting into my new routine here so I can know how to use my energy and not get exhausted trying to do too much. But doing what I feel called to do, not putting that on the back burner and ignoring myself again. Thank you. And missing y'all like crazy. So I'm going to hopefully put a picture in the video, in the email of seeing too much black and white makes you go crazy. And I hope everyone's doing well. Hope we have a Zoom coming up. I'm doing this video at home. So maybe there could be a Zoom at home. Who knows? I wouldn't know until that day. It's the weather or something. All right. You know I love you. And you know we are all in this together. But whole is the goal. When each of us whole, it's holistic. All of us are whole. All right? Take it easy. Be easy with yourself. Love yourself. And I will see you soon.